Oke, Bang Fajar, udah jam 9 juga dan semua Eju dan tim udah di sini. Can we start the competition now, Bang? Excuse me, Bang Fajar. Buat para tim udah bisa on cam ya. Bang Fajar. Okay, welcome to all the competitions, to all the debaters. Today we will have the pre-final round. So before Bang Fajar announce the motions, I will show you the draw of this pre-final round. Alright guys, this is the draw for pre-final round. So we only have one chamber, so the competition will be held in main hall. So for opening government, we have Al Irsyad iPad 2. And again, in opening opposition, we have Albertus Arte at Marte. And next, in closing government, we have GBP, which is forces. And in closing oppositions, we have GBP A. So for the adjudicator, today's the adjudicator will be by Bang Fajar Fadli, Marco Pitoyo, and Kak Nifa. Bang Fajar, back to you.
Oke, Wen boleh di-share lagi nggak draw-nya tadi?
Oke, Bang.
Oke, alright, Mer. Wen boleh langsung ke apa aja, ke motion.
Oke, Bang, wait a minute. Baik, Bang, back to you.
Okay, so hi everyone. Congratulations for making it to the pre-final for all participants. And today in the pre-final round, we will be talking about, the heading is, there's a context slide before this one. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the economy. Let's go to the context slide first one. Okay, so disaster capitalism. We're going to be talking about the economy today, yeah? The economy, and the info slide includes disaster capitalism is the practice by a government regime or cooperation, etc., of taking advantage of a major disaster to adopt liberal economic policies that the population would be less likely to accept under normal circumstances, usually by means of fear-mongering and impact-based buying, i.e. buying hand sanitizer to protect family, eco-friendly designer bag to help save the environment. Is there any question about the info slide? All clear? Okay. Now for the motion. So the motion reads, this House regrets the rise of disaster capitalism in times of emergency. For example, pandemic and warfare. Any question? Nope. Okay, if there's no more question, it's 7 past 9. Debate will start at 9:22. Good luck everyone. You may start case building. Okay, the case building time is up. Right, I want to confirm OG, Alirshad iPad A, iPad 2, sorry. Alirshad iPad 2, who is the first speaker? Alirshad iPad 2, who is the first speaker?
Yes, Kak. Wait a minute. Bentar.
Okay, how about OO? Who's the first speaker?
NG speaking first.
Okay, thank you so much. How about GBP, which is force? CG? CG, who is speaking first?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Who is the first speaker from CG?
Dela. Cici Dela.
CG, who is the first speaker? Can you repeat?
Dela.
Leila?
Dela.
Della, sorry.
Yes. Okay. Am I audible?
EO? Yes. OG, who is the first speaker?
Yeah, I'm.
So Hilmia is the first speaker. How about CO, GBPA? GBPA, who is the first speaker?
First speaker from GPPA is Ferantelia.
Okay. All right, thank you so much for. Okay, LO udah bisa share untuk timernya ya. Without further ado, I would like to welcome the Prime Minister here.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, but your background noise is quite loud.
Okay, I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, in the current status quo, in these conditions of like a time crisis of pandemics or warfare conditions, the rise of disaster capitalism. There is a rise of disaster capitalism. Like capitalism is the practice by the government or regime or corporations and etc. of taking advantage of a major disaster to adopt liberal economic policies that the population would be less likely to accept under normal circumstances, and usually by means of fearing mandarins and impact-based buying, buying and hand sanitizer to protect family, eco-friendly designer bag to help save the environment, and etc. And do you know that this is get a and this is problematic to our nations, get problematic to our society, because this is make a problem in like it can disrupt the logistic, ladies and gentlemen. And our BOP is simple, and our goal is simple, to make the unrise of disaster capitalism by our efficacy. Later, well, I have to I'll tell later, because it is harmful on the long-term impact, ladies and gentlemen. So I think that's clearly enough to set up in the debate. So I'm going to my argument. First argument is about the urgency. This some urgency, like in time crisis like a pandemic, warfare conditions in a time of there's a lot of war from like in yeah in in this time Indonesia are facing the pandemic. All of the world are facing the pandemics, and this and the some of our governments or some company are selling some things that are important things that's really uh, what a society needs, and like they're selling masker, selling provide selling masker, selling face shield, and etc. And and capitalism is like selling as much as possible as what and as much as possible, and selling the high price, and and they will be like their things that they are will be get more advantage and more beneficial from the selling from their sale. And that is harmful for our society. This is harmful for our nations. This is harmful for our economic as environment. Like because like private company. Private company is a business that work in economy. That's maybe work also in the environments. That's also in etc. And the rest of this, the rest of the disaster capitalism will make a private company will like their like also including the private company will increase their price as the rise of crime crisis, because they I have said earlier, they will get a lot of advantage that give they will accept a lot of benefits from this. What the benefits that the private company will accept, like all of a lot of society in the time crisis, they will need a lot of things that important to maintain their life, like their masker, food, like in time what face child and etc. And it is also get harmful for the economical of our nations, like the price of all of things. The private give a big price that that's because they know that all of people need it, and they will also buy it, whether they have the money or no, because this is the important things. It is the crucial things that the society needs. And the government should regret this, because our economical will not unstable, ladies and gentlemen, will not stable. I'm sorry, this will unstable. Like there in our society there are a lot of there are also poor people. There are also middle class or upper class people that uh, uh, if you know that not all people can buy this, not people can buy the important things, because they are have maybe in a poor class, their lack of financials, and just for upper or middle class uh, that will what buy these things, because the price is increases because the private company increase the price of the things. And and going to my second argument about efficacy. We bring the efficacy by the solutions where the government could cooperate with the private business to not misuse the principle of capitalism, to work with either they could cooperate in financial, which they can give incentivize money to pay some service to commodity, and for the private company and private business. So the capitalism are used to take advantage in unfair situations where whole society are suffer. Yeah. So they also can make what make a policy to create to create a policy to ban the rise of the rise of private business, the rise of oknum that increasing increasing the price of the things, and ban the rise of misuse capitalism in this era, because this is harmful, and because like there maybe the governments should standarding the price, what price that the company, the public and private company will sell the things. And so I think that's all for me, and we are so proud to propose to these motions, because this is harmful, and we must do regret these motions, the rest of. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the Prime Minister. To respond to the case, I would like to welcome the leader of the opposition. You're here.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Wait a second, let me move this thing. Okay. Okay. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, notice how the other side of the house didn't really bring an explanation about how emergency and also the disaster is truly happening in the country itself. So first of all, I will bring that characterization itself. First of all, about the emergency. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a really dire situation, and that dire situation is truly affecting our economy, and it is endangering the life of many people, especially the economic condition of many people, ladies and gentlemen. And this disaster capitalism is using the emergency situation to take some advantage that would create benefit at the end of the day. And in the status quo,
Excuse me, we cannot hear you. Angie, can you please stop the time? Pause the time, please.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you're audible.
A second. Okay. Should I restart my speech or?
No, I think you can continue.
Okay. Which part did I cut off from?
You were cut off when you say that how the emergency and crisis will affect economy and also people's life.
I see. Okay. I will be continuing my speech in 3, 2, 1. So ladies and gentlemen, all of this harmful thing that is happening to people's life and the economic condition is happening, right? And in the status quo, this capitalism is also happening. For an example, we are selling masks in COVID condition. And that is why we are going to stay with this motion for the goal of create bigger benefit in more fields. And what are we going to do to achieve this goal is by creating more policy to boost the economy as a government. And also we are not going to rise the price that high, and we are still going to do some CSR as a company itself. And my rebuttal towards the government will be intertwined in my point later. So first one is about the stable economy itself. Rebuttal intertwined, they say that it will create a unstable economy for a lot of people because there are many poor people. But as I said in my mechanism before, the price won't be raised that high. For an example, we are not going to sell a hand sanitizer for 100K just for some 5 meals. So it is still affordable for some people at the end of the day. And ladies and gentlemen, the stable economy in our side of the house is truly important, right? Because in times of emergency, we notice that the economy is truly unstable at the first hand. The inflation is happening. A lot of smaller income is happening to this business itself. And what that means is that a lot of business are falling at the first hand. And we know that this business are the ones who are taking the most important key in the society itself, right? Because with no profit coming to this business, we will get no advantage, right? And with no advantage itself, it will create a bigger harm towards the business itself. And because it holds a big impact to the society, it creates more job field, it creates more product for the people to use. With this falling itself, a lot of people will be affected at the first hand, ladies and gentlemen. And when this this key point is falling, the greater disaster will come at the end of the day. For an example, in times of economic crisis, without this strong major company holding on, all of these people have no job. All of these people are coming to an end at the end of the day. So that is why we want to create this possibility for them to create this profit itself to avoid this falling, and also will still help the people itself. And what we are going to do second is to lift up the urgency of the emergency situation. Why will this happen, ladies and gentlemen? Because when we are using this market, we will create a major awareness, ladies and gentlemen, because market economy is the one of the fastest way to create more awareness, to create more promotion, ladies and gentlemen. For an example, metal straw, reusable shopping bag, and also bamboo straw was not something that is trendy. People did not even know what that was, and people are not using that, right? But when the market are putting their eyes onto this kind of things, they will create this product, they will promote this product, and people will know that these are important things. People will know that, oh, I truly need these things to finally have my contribution towards the environment itself, ladies and gentlemen. It will become a trend because of the help of the promotion of the corporation itself, ladies and gentlemen. They are the one who sell, they are the one who promote, and they are the one who put it on social media, make it a trend on Shopee, on Instagram, and stuff like that. And as the people who know how much the importance of these things are, we know and we buy this thing, we will also contribute to the society, to the environment by giving less trash. And also it is becoming a win-win solution that the company will also get the profit too at the end of the day. So that is why, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that it is something exclusive in our side of the house. And we believe that this awareness is something that is really important, ladies and gentlemen, because it is a truly emergency time. This COVID is something that is urgent. The climate change is something that is urgent, and it cannot be lifted up by other actors because they don't have the power to produce while promoting as these corporations have. They don't have the power to promote as these governments have. You can say that, well, there are a lot of influencers in social media and stuff like that, but they don't have the power to produce this thing. They don't have the power to create more policy and stuff like that that will truly move these people to buy, to really move these people to use these products that will also save them. That is truly imposing fear mongering at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. And going on to my third case on argument, it is about the corporation social responsibility, or CSR. Ladies and gentlemen, the other side of the house say that we are going against our work ethic, we are making a lot of harm in the society itself, but we believe that it is not true at the end of the day. Why? Because this company is having a responsibility towards the society itself. When they are creating more profit itself, they have to contribute to the society itself. For an example, through social welfare, through NGOs, and also by opening more work field, it is a part of the responsibility, and also they will also pay more tax, and it will create more stability and a better work ethic in the company, and also produce more benefit for the country itself at the end of the day. And it is exclusive in our side of the house, because with not capitalizing these things, we are not going to get more profit as much as we can, and more people will be saved if we are imposing this higher tariff at the end of the day. And as a preemptive, we cannot say that we are using the suffering of these people, because yes, we will increase the price, but we believe that it is okay, because the increasement of the price itself is a part of demand fluctuation. And when you are imposing higher demand, we will also impose more economy, and it's a part of law in the economy itself. And that is why vote for opening opposition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Before that, I think the timekeeper can may try to reset the timer. Okay. All right. To respond to the case, I would like to welcome the Deputy Prime Minister here.
Okay, can you wait for a second, please?
Okay.
Okay, so I'm sorry for the disturbance. I would like to restart my speech. So before, okay, um, uh, okay, okay, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, as the extensive member of the opening government, I would like to give you some of my response to what has been said by the of um, previous previous speaker from the opening opposition. But first, let me give you some of my clarification. The clarification is about that. The other side of the house said that unstable economy. They said that it is the condition is the condition is that there is unstable economy. But we say no, because we say that it won't increase the price. And yes, I think that from my clarification. Okay, for the another clarification, I think the other side of the house haven't realized our solution on the on my previous speaker has talked about the efficacy by making a policy and making some of um, like a solutive solution to not oppress the capitalism, but also not to oppress the society by this vicious capitalism. Like my previous side of the house already gave you about you some the example that she said that it can governments can could have like uh, accommodation or incentivize um, uh, pay to the business company. So they maybe like the government would buy the asset from the private company. So I think they could rise down the price but it would also make them disadvantaged, because you know that in this um, situation, people are very on the uh, urgent and dying situation. Notice that there is a lot of often mention about anything to respond toward what we have, what our previous speaker already said. I think that I would like to give you some of my rebuttal. That is that say that they say that um, uh, it is they say that it is not it is not harm to rise up to use this capitalism disaster and that such a thing, because they think that as the company they have more responsibility to like having giving a more job field and giving more chances to the economical chances to the society, so they can up their condition in this urgency. But I think this is not because we think this is very hard, because I think besides that, government has the responsibility to set up the lower price. In this emergency situation, government has the highest authority to make sure that it's not a exclusive party like company and some people that are going to apply the job on that could get the get the benefits and the advantage. But I think but I think that responsible to set up this emergency situation. But I think that in our side of the house um, is have the authority to make sure that it is for the whole society. By my previous speaker that already said on the my on the under the policy, and 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 notice that into the process of applying job for or the job vacancy for the society. I think it's on the level of when the society is already capable on the certain level of um, workforce and etc. So they have a capability, so they can go apply and get job. Um, so I think that's on my rebuttal. But for my argument, I'd like to give you some of my uh, point of view and standpoint about the long-term impact, uh, to how we should regret this motion. My idea is I would like to say that it created unequal chances for the financially unstable family. Now, financial financial unstable family, first they have less of economical chances and power, mean that they are don't have many access to afford their financial needs. Meanwhile, in the status quo, we can imply that there is a high demand on of certain commodity in regard to the impact of a disaster. Well, we could imply by this that we could imply that by a high demand commodity, it will rise the price on the market. How is that so? Because we know that when there is a high demand, the commodity is not always provided on the market. So the price must be so rise up. This is a major problem for the actor that I would like to talk about, because they are vulnerable in this economic condition. Beside this condition like the pandemic, where they have lack of protection, means that they didn't have money to buy masks and etc. They are being vulnerable at the very first place. They will have they will going to have an unequal access for living themselves in a very first place. That the possibility about to happen is that by they have not they didn't have the unequal access, that they will most likely to be suffered. It could be worse on they couldn't afford anything, but also couldn't provide protection from themselves, especially in this um, urgent situation. As like let's talk about the example of we've seen that we have seen that there is many the high demand of mass fast mass like Sensi affect by this time frame and this contact that are misused by several oknum, which may be like hoarders, which is a private oknum. So as a government, we see a responsibility to avoid this scenario, because we know that we get a moral responsibility as if we elected by the whole society, and we should deliver the aspiration toward the solid policy and party policy, especially in this context of time framework where our society is more likely to be protected. So by that, we are so proud to propose. So thank you.
Thank you so much for the Deputy Prime Minister. To respond to the case, I would like to welcome the Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, can you try again?
It was echoing.
Wait. Okay, am I audible?
Yes, better.
Okay. We'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, opening government mentioned that capitalism is only taking advantages. We think that it is so reckless of them, right? Because we believe that corporations are the stakeholder that is really important to recover the economy condition of a certain nation. It is really urgent, especially in an emergency situation, in the middle of pandemic situation. It is really needed. The economy recovery is something that is really needed, right? The existence of this disaster capitalism will help government to gain more capital and also to provide more aid and programs to fix the emergency situation, right? That is why we think that even if corporations are profit oriented, but there is already a lot of safety net, as what my previous speaker has already mentioned to you. There is the existence of CSR, corporation social responsibility. There is also progressive tax. It means that when they are profiting so much, then they are going to be paying so much tax at the very first beginning, right? There is also the existence of job fields, the one that the corporation are rising, right? A lot of social welfares, and that is why we think that the money is also going to be circulated and will still be delivered to the society in the certain nation itself, right? The moment that we are doing this fear mongering, we believe that it is something that is really okay. Because firstly, we believe that it is based on fact, right? The moment that you need, the moment in a pandemic situation, yes, you really need mask, you really need hand sanitizer. We think that it is okay at the very first place. But secondly, we think that the moment that we did this fear mongering, it will also raise up the urgency and also social awareness under the situation. Oh, you need to actually do social distance and things like that. This fear mongering would actually exist and would actually create a better output on our side of the house, right? It will also increase the productivity of the corporations the moment that mass is starting to be rare and things like that. Now, several response coming from the opposing government, right? Their only argument is how it will going to be harmful because of the inflation, because of the rising price in the market. But we believe that exactly because of the inflation, it is going to trigger government to give more aid, because we think that it is actually government fault at the very beginning why the crisis, why the emergency situation is actually happening, right? That is why it is actually their responsibility to give aid at the very first beginning, right? It is likely to happen under our side of the house the moment that as a government you are not doing right, and then there will be the existence of this inflation. We think that there will be a lot of criticism coming from international, and that is why as a government it is likely for you to give this aid for this from the society if the condition is really dire and if you are actually getting criticized by international, right? That is where we can actually protect the vulnerable stakeholder that they are always glorifying, right? The poor people would actually exist under our side of house and will also be protected the moment that government can actually provide this aid itself. Under their side of house, it is going to be worse. There will be the illusion of enough. How? Because government think that everyone can actually buy the commodities with a cheap price, right? They can actually buy this without putting so much effort at. That is why, as a government, it is going to be unlikely for you to try giving more aid to the poor people. That is why the harm they mentioned is going to exist under their side of the house at the very beginning. Now, under the mechanism, they mentioned this about how they're going to make policy that will ban or harm the private corporation. It is so bold of them, but it is so bad and reckless, right? Because we need to notice that all of our efforts as a government, we think that a single government cannot actually handle the whole population. When we are seeing in US in the pandemic situation, they're also crumbling down, right? That is why the existence of corporation is needed. The moment that they are going to harm the private corporation, it means that they are not going to get so much income. How they can actually recover from this situation? We think that government banks are at the very first beginning are losing, right? Now, continue my extension. I'm going to be talking about how our side of the house we will not shift the government focus and mistake at the very first place. Let us notice on the status quo right now, under a pandemic situation, a lot of government tend to use this opportunity to postpone their agenda and their mistakes, right? How there is the rising of terrorism in Indonesia, how there will be a lot of environmental issues, because as a government, you are going to use this emergency only as a tool for you to hamper the nation's development. Even in developing nation, they are going to victimize themselves as a government. Under a pandemic situation, they couldn't actually move anywhere because it's a dire situation and things like that. This is really bad, right? Because there will be more problems even after the pandemic. We think that it is something that is really bad, right? Because the crisis might happen even if the pandemic, even if the emergency situation, and we think that the crisis, economic crisis, will actually exist, there will be not sustainable economy at all. We think that it is going to be really bad. The moment that economy is going to be bad, the moment that economy crumbling down, it would actually be a back. It would actually be something that is really bad, right? Because there is not enough aid for the society. For example, when government is not having enough capital, this is something that is really bad. Under our set of house, we can actually fix this. We can actually create. Under our set of house, we can still create government idealism and also proportionalism at the first place, right? Because first, we can actually maximize effort to end the emergency situation. For example, under a COVID-19 pandemic, then we're going to maximize the effort for the health minister and things like that. We're going to focus only for them. So we think that it's going to be likely for this certain person to maximizely using this effort, right? But the moment that we are following their set house, it is going to be so messed up, right? Because like a lot of people are just going to take and trying to victimize themselves and trying to do that certain things. We think that it is really bad at the very beginning. But secondly, we think that under our set of house, the other aspects can still go on, right? But environmental issues, economy development, and things like that, it is something that can be exclusively happen under our set of house, right? Then why is it important? Yes, it is truly important. When we are talking about environmental issues, there's already a lot of natural disasters happening in the status quo right now. How we can also need to understand how Western nations on the status quo right now are also liking this. They are actually putting more spotlight to this. For example, they are making Green Deal policy, Paris Agreement, and things like that. That is why the moment that we are going to be more progressive, we are going to cover up more environmental issues. For example, it would actually attract Western nations to put more investments to us. That is why the safety net is going to be so sustainable under our set of house. How we can actually be creating a better economic condition to actually end this emergency situation, right? Then what is going to be the output under our set of the house, right? What is going to be what is going to be the output? Firstly, we think that our side house can actually gain more nations capital, because we are going to allocate and what's going to be output, we can actually allocate the money and the capital we get to the other aspects. For example, for the safetyness of the nations, how we can actually rebuild more businesses, get more sustainable future. This is something that is really important, right? Because this how the moment that our future will be better, there will be the existence of economy recovery, how we can actually rebuild more businesses. This is actually how we can actually end a lot of casualties that is actually happening in the status quo right now. For example, because a lot of emergency situation, we think that when we are having a capital, we can actually have more way to actually solve the situation faster, and how we can actually have more sustainable future post the pandemic situation or post emergency situation itself. That is why the output and the effort aftermath will be better under opposition bans, right? We think that opening opposition has already mentioned a lot of things are really complexity and has burned down the possible stakeholders, right? Firstly, my first speaker has already mentioned about a lot of sustainability through the cooperation, how we can actually protect a lot of people by job fair CSR, and how we can also include poor people and things like that, right? I also mentioned about how we can actually trigger government to make more effective and to be more responsible, how we can actually attract foreign investors so that the safety net will actually exist under our set house, how we can actually solve the other issues that can actually become an exclusive benefit coming from set house, right? We think that government totally lose, because firstly, their benefit is unsustained, and we think that it is not clear the moment that there's existence of illusion enough, and their harm is clear, how there will be a stagnancy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the deputy leader of the opposition. To respond to the case, I would like to welcome the member for the government.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, as we all know, everyone wants to everyone wants to have a life where that fair monitoring towards society is not happening, that not something emergency is always being so emergency to every people, which I will explain more in my arguments, right? Which is why we're proud to propose this motion. First of all, we say that why rise of disaster capitalism is wrong, because like this impulsively buying things can happen to society, which this is actually because like of the fairness of the population itself, that
that are being fear-mongered by the government, which, for example, like the government fear-mongering them by saying that bad luck could happen if we do not buy these things, like in the status quo, like in the coronavirus pandemic, and etc. Which is wrong, because like we say, the one who uses this buying stuffs are ourselves. Like we are the one who use it. Like for example, like people like for example, like this analogy where people say smoking is bad, like it's harmful. But in our case, for example, like there's these people that we don't know, for example, like they smoke, but like the cigarette itself contains some herbals which can help them to cure their sickness, for example, of this person, etc. Like in for the conclusion itself on how we actually ourselves use it, right? Like it's not like on how we actually use it is because like on how we actually get this fear feelings, like because the government fear mongering us that can impact on the base by, because like by this, like this will give bad impacts to public. And then for the emergency itself, like we actually need to understand that who actually is needed this emergency stuff. For example, like we need to question who needed the most. For example, like in COVID-19, in this situation where we, as we all know, like doctors, like medical practitioners needed this medical stuff the most. And what kind of emergency, that this kind of emergency actually like cannot be happening in all circumstances, because like in every situation people have their own emergency problem. For example, like in this pandemic, like I said, like people who needed this the most, for example, like you buy for example, like the medical supplies, like to check yourself, for example, like through nasal breathing or etc. But as we all know that it is not really necessary for us to buy this thing, which like because like the government be fear mongering us, like for us to buy these things. But actually the one who needed this medical stuff the most are the doctor, are the medical practitioner itself, right? Now moving on to my rebuttals that the leader of the opposition said that influencers cannot create policy, that this cannot make people use these products or else. But ladies and gentlemen, we know that they can at least increase the awareness, for example, like this fear mongering, like the awareness where is it is bad, for example, like the fear mongering toward people to buy these things where it actually is not really important for these people, that it is important for the medical practitioner itself, right? And then that the deputy that the DLO, they keep talking about the economic, that how by asking people to buy these things actually can increase the economic in a country itself. But ladies and gentlemen, we actually can we actually prove to people, to citizens, that they can afford to buy these things and etc., right? Like as we all know that there are poverty out there, that they actually cannot afford to buy these things. Therefore, like the economic of course will increase, but not all people, not all citizens, not all society can actually afford these things, right? Now moving on to my arguments. The first, that like the OG said that in pandemic situation, like not only in Indonesia but like from all over the world, like they are facing this pandemic situation where government selling important things like face shield, mask, and etc. Like this is not necessarily needed for population, because like we need to know like the one who used a lot are like for the medical practitioners, for the doctor itself. And for the population, of course we all need this, we all know we need this, but like not all medical staffs are needed. For example, like I said before, like the like this medical supplies where you check your corona or something through nasal breathing, right? And then the OG said that the government only and the OG said that the government provide these things. But ladies and gentlemen, all people can buy these things, as I said before. Like they cannot buy, like even we know if this is even we know this is urgency. But for example, like in small areas out there where coronavirus are not standing much, that even are not standing much, that like it's not really necessary for them, for the population in the small areas to for them to buy these things, right? And then they said that and then they said something about like they want to make policy to ban rise of private company, where they actually didn't tell us on how they are going to manage, because like it's hard, like it is not easy to make this policy, and then like all people can just want this policy, like not all people can just like act on what this policy actually really are, right? And then moving on to my arguments, is first, and then is the second one is why we regret the rise of disaster capitalism in times of emergency, right? The government actually can take advantage by giving some kind of regulation that makes the population buy these things to like to face their fear mongering, for example, like global warming and eco-friendly, that the government make this population, make this society like fear, like make them have this feeling of fear too much that global warming could happen, ladies and gentlemen. But the products of bags itself can actually, the government can actually change these plastics, for example, like to the reusable bags and etc. Right? And then for the guard facing pandemics itself, as you all know, the frontliners are this medical team who are facing this corona. Therefore, like not all people have the same emergency as we all know, and then therefore government cannot just rise the disaster capitalism in times of emergency, knowing that not all people need this such important things. And until the last point, last point of my argument is that the DPM said the DPM said that people can buy these masks, face shield, and etc. from private companies, right? Yes, we all know people need to buy these stuff in this situation, but the question is that corona is not forever, right? Like mask, yes, this will be still useful in the future, but like other things like face shield will not be useful in the future. Moreover, know how this face shield is like made of plastics that create harm. But also they said that to economy can rise because people like buying things from these private companies, but it will be only for a moment. Like this will not long last to future. Like corona is unforever. Like the possibility of companies be detrimental can happen in the future. Therefore, we are proud to oppose this motion. Thank you. To propose this motion.
Thank you so much for the member for the government. To respond the case, I would like to welcome member of the opposition.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, the government side of the house keep talking about how is it going to be very unfair for the poor, or how is it going, the economic problem will always happen under our side of the house. But we believe that these cases actually will be worse under their side of the house, and therefore we're still strongly oppose these motions. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our goals into this debate is very simple, which is we want to prove you that the economic status in our side of the house actually will still run even the capitalism itself happens. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before moving on to my arguments, let me rebut several terms come from the government side of the house. Now, first of all, they keep stating about the idea of social gap, whether this is actually unfair for the poor one, that they can't even afford the mask, hand sanitizer, or even and so on and so forth. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we actually can prove you that this actually won't happen, because we can see in this current status quo in the society where there's an influencer or charity foundations with their open donations to buy masks, hand sanitizer, and the things that useful in this emergency situation for the poor. Meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, we want to the government side of the house to prove if this capitalism not happening under our society, how can they actually ensure whether the poor will afford the mask and sanitizer and so on and so forth in the future? Because we believe the poor people have many other priorities, and even their
actually have difficulties in fulfilling their daily needs in the very first beginning, since they have no awareness about this emergency situation in the very first place. Now, moving on to my second point of rebuttal, they stated if this capitalism happen, the impulsive buying among the society will also happen. But ladies and gentlemen, we say that this impulsive buying actually is okay because it means that society actually relies on this kind of these emergency situations. They buy actually what they actually need in this emergency situation. They buy it, they need it, and they use it. So it will not harm anyone. Meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, they actually never prove us that why impulsive buying is actually not okay for the society itself. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the opening opposition teams also talk about awareness and a little of economy. Therefore, we here want to prove you that how is it going to give many good impacts to many aspects in the end of the day. Now, moving on to my arguments, there will be two things I will talk in today's debate. First of all is why is it justifiable, and the second of all is what will actually happen if we don't regret it. Now, moving on to my first argument, I will tell you why is it justifiable. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that this capitalism is actually good to recover the economic status in this emergency situation. Why is that so? Because first of all, let's analyze this disaster. With the disaster happening, we know that we need to realize that everyone suffers. Every layer of society suffers because of this disaster. Now, so the government must want to give the best for the society. So they need to fulfill the high demands of the market. So even if the government sides of the house stated that this will harm the society because of the high price, we believe that this will not happen because there's an economy principle called the opportunity cost, which means that a price in a certain chain actually will be set high, and there will be something be sacrificed to achieve a certain priority. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we need to understand that this is emergency situation, which means that government need to save one by one. Government cannot directly save everything in one time. So we believe that economy should come first because economy is the best of every aspect. So if the economy can be cured, the society will also be cured. And the vice versa, when the economy cannot be cured, now the society will also never feel the prosperity in the very end of the days. Now, moving on to my second point, why this capitalism is actually helpful. Because first of all, ladies and gentlemen, this actually can trigger people about this emergency situation, like this mask, hand sanitizer, or face shield is actually important. Even if they're being impulsive in buying the stuff, ladies and gentlemen, it means that actually they realize of the danger. Now compare if they actually know capitalism, which means they will be not buying impulsive. So they will be more chill about these situations, and because they will think that it can be got easily, and they will keep postponing to buy this stuff and so on. So first, now, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that the economy will still run well because this disaster is short term. It's all about adaptations, and it can be recovered. Why? There's actually a simple example where in this current status quo, the pandemic mask in the beginning, the price of mask is very expensive. But as the time goes by, it went cheaper and cheaper. So the high demand things is actually the stuff they sell actually also the useful things to protect society in emergency. Now, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to my second argument, what will actually happen if we regret this? What if we not regret this capitalism? Now, first of all is the effects to the society. Now, this capitalism, as I stated before, this capitalism will actually trigger the society and increasing the awareness of them of this emergency situation. So they will be more careful and buy the mask and other safety things. So that things can protect society, like for example, that hand sanitizer, and in the end of the day, the society can be protected. Second of all is to the producer, distributor, and the market itself. Now, we can see if this impulsive buying means the target market, that stuff is the high demand, right, ladies and gentlemen? So the things So the producer need to produce so many stuffs in the end of the day. So it means that actually they need more human resources, they need more workers. So it also means that they actually need society, the job vacancy will still exist, even the possibility of job vacancy is more possible under our side of the house. Now, ladies and gentlemen, imagine if this job vacancy happen, or this producer or industry is actually success. So it will be influence the society. Society will realize that the change of this kind of business actually very good. So in the end of the day, the society will run a private business, for example, like make a handmade mask, hand sanitizer, or even hampers and so on and so forth that can attract buyer. So this actually will give so many advantages to themselves, to society, and even to the country itself. Why is that so, ladies and gentlemen? Because with making the mask itself, we need so many job vacancy in many aspects, like for example, the sewer, the distributor, and others, and so on and so forth. Now, we believe that it will be more beneficial under our side of the house, and therefore, until the end of today's debate, I'm more than proud to oppose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the member of the opposition. To respond the case and close the debate from the government bench, I would like to welcome the government whip.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. So I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, notice on how they keep supporting this kind of impulsive buying, and they be saying we couldn't even prove how is it actually bad in this motion where we keep supporting this kind of impulsive buying, which we will later on explain it on my point of clashes. Before moving on my point of clashes, allow me to do rebuttal. First of all, we need to actually pay attention to this kind of creating products also harm the environment itself. Can you actually guarantee that by creating many of this this mask, this hand sanitizer can be recycled easily, and also the production moment is when you have the residue of it, which can also harm the environment itself. And from producing many of it, if people keep on buying impulsively, where they keep stocking and stocking by thinking, oh, we actually need this in this situation and pandemic, which was not actually right, because we have to think the urgency and emergency of the things we buy itself, such as hand sanitizer, mask, and facial, which we couldn't even make sure that we are just being forced to buy it because we are getting fear mongering by this. The situation isn't normal, and we couldn't even make sure of you when will this be stopping. That's why we need to buy a lot and stock a lot. Can you just imagine if we buy too many and this kind of pandemic already stopped? Where are we going to use this mask to, and for what we are actually keeping this a lot of amount from the mask itself. Also, the use of hand sanitizer, because we all know that there's none of the really huge size of the packaging from the hand sanitizer itself, and people prefer to buy the small bottle of hand sanitizer itself because it's easily to carry. But then after the hand sanitizer keep buying and it already run out of hand sanitizer, we just throw the bottle like that, and also that can harm the environment itself. And also a good argument from the opening government is actually this kind of impulsive buying really harms the economy. But on this, how we actually stand, because the economic will always beat up on demand, which was the more you buy something, the price will get higher, because we cannot deny and resist this kind of fact, because it's already on the education of economic, where you buy a lot of things, the things itself will get a higher price. And this is why it can also create waste when you not use it properly. For example, like mask, how you actually have to throw it, for
for how many hours you need to actually use it, and that when it's not all doing correctly, it harms many of the parties, which was from the environment. Later on, we can create chaos to the public itself, where and it also affect on this hand sanitizers, and also for example face masks. We also need to know that this kind of eco-friendly bag, when many people buy it, oh, we're just going to buy it, but they never stop using plastics such as plastic straws or plastic bags, then this kind of many production of this kind of reusable bag is actually also useless, because the residue from producing itself is actually harmful from the very first place. Now, moving on to my point of clashes, ladies and gentlemen, is first of all is the economics itself. We all know that we are suffering on this kind of pandemic, where we don't have that much money support, where they actually never explain to the opposite side of the house, never explain, do all of the public layer can from the low class to the high class can all afford, and they want to afford this because, oh, we also need to also pay attention that the government can also make this kind of thinking, where they sell campaign, and then you start to impulsive buy also. But then can they all afford this, and do they really want to afford this, which was to the economic, if they don't buy any of the sellings where you already produce much of it, there's no cycle, so that this kind of economic push will never happen in the very first place. And also, if you keep on this kind of impulsive buying and lots of it is not getting used, that's why you the opposite side of the house will never achieve this kind of economic push from the very first place, because it's not well used, and later on the long term itself, we couldn't guarantee that this will be also getting used all the time. And also, moving on to my second point of clashes is this kind of aid stock, which was why we should produce it that much, because we need to understand that not everyone has the same urgency on every situation. For example, in this kind of pandemic itself, or it was on facing the global warming itself, we are having the different urgency every single time. For example, who actually faced this pandemic is the frontliners, were the medical practitioners, which was they need the most of those medical supplies, which was, for example, the supplies that can test this virus itself, the mask, the not only simple mask that we use, but they need an extra mask that was strong, that they can cure people. That's why as the public itself, the citizens, we are not having those kind of urgency and emergency as the same as the circumstances where we are the practitioners itself. That's why how you are going to prove the efficiency, because if it's not used properly and getting thrown all over, this can create chaos towards the environment, and later on harms the public because of the effect is which was not nice. And the third point of my point of clashes is you always need to understand this kind of production and factor always harm towards environment, especially the public, because of the residue they're creating. It's not sustainable until the very end. We need to regret, and that's why we are very proud to propose. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. To close the entire debate, I would like to welcome the opposition whip.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, I don't understand why this the opening the closing government keep champion about the environmental issue, because we think this is actually jumpy argument, because we need to actually understand economic issue is actually the main question that we should actually talk about, that we should actually engage under today's debate. But even if I'm going to be charitable, and I'm going to engage with their environmental issue, and we can actually prove to you that the idea of environmental issue will never happen under our side of the house. We should win today's debate, and I will talk it more under my rebuttals. This is why I believe that we still have to actually oppose today's motion. But before moving on to my several point of clashes, there are several points of rebuttals under today's debate. First, at the moment they're actually saying to you that actually capitalism meaning sell things as high as they can, and this is actually harmful. This is actually pretty unclear idea coming from them, because actually they actually never prove to you how this is actually very harmful for the society, and they only prove to you that it is because it gives benefits to several parts, and it is not good. We see this is actually the weak premise coming from the government bench, because as long as economy can recover, it can help the nation to recover. As we know, economics is actually the main issue to actually recover. It's totally okay and beneficial for the country itself, because economy is like the key to stand the nation. Economy is actually the point to actually actually strengthen your nation, and the moment it can easily recover, moment the foundation or the base is actually recovering, it's totally not harmful. We will do everything to actually save our country. Moreover, industrial even open job vacancies moment the demand is actually higher, and I will talk more about in my point of clashes, which means actually no harmful that we get by actually proposing this kind of idea. Moving on to my second point of argument, the idea of poor people. Even if we agree that yes, poor people get affects the most under the disaster, we say this is actually totally okay, because this is actually totally okay, right? Opposition, even they question on how poor people will afford under today's disaster. If we actually can prove to you, we should win today's debate. Three explanations of this. Point A, government know the best for the country. People will complain in the beginning, but people will do adaptation. The idea of adaptation exists. They realize that self-protection is so priceless. This is why this is so important, right? Point B, alternatives are so many and variety. When society's rate is actually changing, market will change. Market target will changing. When marketing target exists, alternatives will exist, right? For example, there are so many options for masks. For example, upper class can buy and pricey masks, then lower class can buy cloth masks or even make cloth masks by themselves. That is much more cheaper. We don't think that poor people will get this kind of harm. Last point, it is actually the principle of supply and demand. The moment people's priorities actually increase, meaning demand will increase, meaning supply will increase, meaning price will increase, meaning it's actually normal, because we can see people usually face this in life, not only in the disaster situation, society will be okay at the end of the day. Moving on to my last point of rebuttals, they say on how it is this kind of things will not useful at the end of the day, and it will give this kind of environmental issue. We say this actually very not logic and very very weak at the end of the day. Why is it so? Because first, environmental is not urgency. It is actually your consequences. If you want to save your life in this kind of disaster, you should use masks, for example, in the pandemic. But even if yes, okay, we're going to engage with their idea. The idea of innovation exists under our side of the house, because people will make eco-friendly or maybe washable masks, for example, right? Environmental issues will never happen under our side of the house. Second point, we should not exclusively talk about the pandemic issue, about the masks, about the face shield at the end of the day, because we need to actually engage with eco-friendly bag that we need in the flood disaster. We say eco-friendly bag will be good for our environment at the end of the day. This is where long-term idea, long-term benefits will only happen under our side of the house. Moving on to my point of clashes, there are 2 points of clashes under today's debate. First, why is it justified and the importance of this? Second, the idea of society stability. First, why is it justified and the importance of this? Because premise coming from the government bench, it's on how they afraid that society will suffer, especially for lower class people, and economies will unlikely to boost if we do so. But we say this actually the weak idea coming from them, and if we can prove to you that economic boost will happen with this kind of disaster capitalism, CO should win to this debate. 2 explanations of this. A, disaster capitalism make a mutualism and improve the other stakeholder. Why this is true? Because you can see moment disaster capitalism exists, meaning demand improve. At the moment demand improve, the other industrial like the distributor, the tailor for masks, or maybe the blue collar businessman, everybody will be needed in this. Meaning, moment it happens, job vacancies exist, ladies and gentlemen. People have jobs, economic will boost, and poor people that they keep afraid of will also be helped, because those poor people will also have jobs, right? They have jobs, meaning that economic will boost. We save poor people in the long term. And why we are more contributive than OO? Because A, we protect poor people in the long term, and B, compared with OO, that OO only increase the awareness, but they are not proposing you the long term solution. The second point, second explanation, the idea of innovation, ladies and gentlemen. This meaning at the moment this as capitalism exists, people will compete to be more good because one of economic motive is actually doing monopolization to gain benefit. Moment innovation exists, economic will develop. Moment competition exists, business will exist, and economic will boost under our side of the house. Comparatively, under the opposition bench, we realize that economic is the most important thing that we need to actually resolve. Why is it justifiable and why society will be okay, right? Understand that disaster capitalism is the only way to recover our economic will, because understand people priority changes as time goes by. For example, no pandemic, then your priority is gadget, for example, but pandemic, your priority is your health. People always change their priority, meaning this is the golden momentum for industrial to recover, which is follow the society's priority. Point B, the idea of normalization. Understand that, okay, in the beginning, price is so high, society can accept it, but it will getting normal and stable because disaster is not forever. Right? This even make economy will boost because economic will run because when price is not stable, economic will not suffer. And second, with this consumerism exists and higher because demand is high, which is this is very good. Second point of cautious, the idea of society stability. Look, this is what will happen under the government bench. You are not boosting economy. Okay, you regret, but my question to you, a solution to actually boost our economic issue, because they never proven to you how they can actually boost economic without disaster capitalism. They never proposing about their solution. They should not win to this debate. Point B, they are too paranoid about environment things, about impulsive things, about unuseful, and the other, there is not our urgency. Panels, we suffer. We are suffering this kind of disaster. We should sacrifice things to actually recover. Whatever the consequences, we should actually prioritize to recover. When the sacrifice worth the recovery, this is totally okay. Point C, they cannot make a stability in their society if their economy itself is not stable. Government will never always have capability to make stability for their society because, and at the end of the day, society will suffer more. Point B, comparatively, more economic boost exists under our side of the house. Innovation exists, meaning adaptation exists, meaning society will be stable at the end of the day. And this is why, until the end of the day, we are more than proud to oppose this motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to deliberate. Committee, can you please make a breakout room for the judges to deliberate?
Okay, Bang, please wait a minute. I think you just need one breakout room, kan, Bang?
Yes, only one.
Udah, Bang. You can just join the breakout room. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much for waiting. So I'm going to announce the result for the pre-final. So in the pre-final round, we have Aldirshad iPad 2 as the opening government, Albertus Arte et Marte as the opening opposition. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong this whole time. CG is GBP, which is force, and CO is GBPA. Judging with me were Nifa and also Marco. After a long deliberation and discussion, we agreed to give the winning bench to opening opposition Albertus Arte et Marte, and also closing opposition GBPA. Congratulations for both teams making it to the grand final. We're going to proceed to the grand final draw matchup. But before that, I would like to confirm that all the grand finalists are here. Is Sutomo, both Sutomo teams, are you here?
Jovan is here.
Jovan is here. Gold Diggers? Is Sutomo 2 Gold Diggers
Yes,
here?
we're complete.
Okay. Albertus Arte et Marte? Here?
Yes, we're
Complete.
here.
Okay, how about GBPA? Is GBPA here?
Yes, yes, complete.
Okay, so all grand finalists are complete. We're going to proceed to the matchup.